All right. Well, good evening, my fellow spiritualists, seekers, light workers, any loving human soul above. Thank you for joining us this evening. I am Stacy Sherman Shull now. I got married. You all know that. And I am the host of Who Are These Spiritualists? It's a monthly video cast podcast for Lily Dale Radio. Lily Dale Assembly is the largest community of spiritualists here in Western New York. I'm sure most of you are well aware of what Lily Dale is, but if you don't, we just suggest that you go to our website, lilydaleassembly.org, and check out all the offerings that Lily Dale has for your development of mediumship, the furthering of the spiritualist movement, and healing. So those are important parts. And I talk to modern day spiritualists all over the world and talk about their journeys into spiritualism. And tonight's guest is Lynn Gaffin, who I met. I was trying to think. It's been a few years, right, Lynn? Like I feel like we've known each other.
Yes, it has. It's been a few years, but it seems like forever.
It does. It really does. When a lot of people say when they come into Lilydale for that first time, they feel a sense of home or community that they never experienced. And I think that's true when you meet spiritualists and your energies match. It's like you've just known each other forever. So I'm super excited to hear about Lynn's journey into spiritualism and what her takes and doings of being a spiritualist mean to her in this period of time. We are a recorded show this week. So if you have questions, if you need to get in contact with either one of us, please feel free to comment under the video. I do man those comments and look at those in case there's a question, but we are recorded tonight, so we won't be able to see or answer your questions as they pop up if you're typing them in. So without further ado, Lynn, do you want to tell people where you're from and a little bit about yourself?
Well, right now I'm living in Connecticut, Groton, Connecticut, and I'm from Wisconsin. Yes, I am. Yay, yay. But I got into spiritualism in 1979. So for all you people with the calculators, that's about 45 years ago.
Wow.
And yeah. And the reason I got into it was I had a friend a man that I was going with who passed away. And I wanted to know where he was and what he was doing. I don't know why I got that idea, because at the time I was not a spiritualist and I didn't have any idea about the afterlife. But anyway, so finally a person I know said, well, let's go to the camp. Well, the camp is Pine Grove Spiritualist Camp in Niantic, for anyone who doesn't know. So I went for the first time, scared to death because I didn't know what to expect. And I didn't know what to do if I got a reading. But I got a reading and I said, oh, that's wonderful. I didn't know what to expect, but I agreed with everything he said. Even if looking back on it now, it was so generic. It was ridiculous. But I agreed with him. Yes, that's wonderful. That got me hooked. For the rest of the summer, I went to the spiritualist camp practically every day and every night. And then I decided it closed at the end of the summer. And in those days, all the churches in the state closed during the summer so that everybody could go to the camp. So a church was opening up, and I didn't know where to go after the summer and that. So talk about the universe, spirit, bringing you to where you're supposed to be when you're supposed to be there.
Right. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh, it's amazing. I was going to a chiropractor at the time, and I was talking to him about this and that and about how I was looking for something and that. And he said, there's a fellow that's coming that comes to me who's going to the who is at the New London Spiritualist Church. I'll find out all the information for you and pass it on to you. So it just kind of, and did you know Al Ferenczi?
I heard a lot about him. Yes, I did not know him personally, but let me tell you, I've heard some stories.
He
Yeah.
he was a legend in his own time. Let me tell you. But anyway, he was the one that was going to my chiropractor, so I got there. So I walked in the first time, and I thought, well, this is weird. And then afterwards, after the service, I went up and I introduced myself, and he told me immediately something about this fella that nobody had any way of knowing. And I thought, holy cow.
Yeah.
So I continued going, and I went for the messages. I went totally for the messages. I didn't care a bit about the philosophy. In fact, I thought everybody was nuts because I didn't agree with anything you said, but I wanted the messages. So I kept going. And that was 45 years ago, and I'm still going. But I've changed my mind. I like the philosophy now.
Well, Lynn, you put a few really good points on that I just wanted to bring up that, we hear a lot is, a lot of people come to spiritualism because they lost a loved one, someone who crossed over and want to know. I've heard that so many times. I just want to know what they're doing. I want to know if they're okay. I want to know. And, that's one of the beauties that I think spiritualism, the movement, offers so much is that proof of continuity that, and I love how you touched on what I call the spectrum of continuity. That first message, it was, I would assume, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I would assume that you're kind of in the throes of the grief. It was recent enough. And even though, the message might have been generic, it resonated with you. It gave you kind of what you were looking for. Right. But then as you, developed or evolved or moved through the movement, then you get this one profound message that somebody said something that no one else would have known about. It's unsearchable or unknowable to anybody but you and that specific man. And those are beautiful moments, in spiritualism as it comes to people. And I do appreciate hearing that always, because it's, spiritualism is such a moving, a moving energy, and absolutely. You just move with it. Yeah.
And it now I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I'm just going to say it has changed so much since I first started. The whole movement has.
Yeah.
And that's what's good about it. That's what I like about it. It's not, this is what we do, this is what we say, so this is what you must believe. It's like you say, it's fluid. It continually changes with the time. I mean, look at the times when the worker had to wear a tuxedo or a gown on stage.
Yeah.
I mean, my gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you imagine somebody now doing that? It's right. Like when I first, I have to wear braces on my legs and my feet. So when that first happened, I had to write to all the churches that I was serving in the area and ask permission to wear pants, so without and not a skirt.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah. I even remember when I started, and I mean, I only started 13 years ago. And I remember too, that was, it depended on what church you were serving. You had to kind of know what their dress code was. Yeah. Well, and I think we also evolve in understanding or philosophy too. Like I have seen, a lot of different thought processes kind of start to evolve.
Oh, gosh, yes.
In spiritualism. Mm-hmm. So tell me, I know personally, but our viewers might not know, what your role is, because you now pastor a church, do you not? Or
in December of 1999, I became ordained. And then I was going to the New London Spiritualist Church at the time. And through a series of events and that, I decided to start my own church. So I did. And, and I keep telling myself, and I tell the story to people, ego said when I first started the church, oh, Lynn's going to start a church. Let's all follow her. Wrong. It didn't happen that way. One person came with me. But we built it up and we built it up. And it's funny because everybody that came to the church was brand new to spiritualism. I don't, wow. And it's like, oh, good. I can teach them my way, get them young and teach them your. So,
well, it's natural law, isn't it? It's natural law.
Gosh, yes.
Yeah. It's so, and that's what I love about the spiritualist movement in its infancy to now. It has always been, and I believe it always will be, teaching that the world, the souls, it needs to be different. We need to have different vibrations, different people, different, just expressions of God to make sure everyone feels included.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
I think so too.
I have new people come in, and I'll talk to them before or after, if I get a chance, and I'll tell them, take what you like and leave the rest. Because you're going to come into it, you're going to hear things. At first you think, oh, if that's what it is, I don't want to have any part of this. But then you're going to hear something else that's going to grab you. Yeah. And you're going to take like I say, take what you like, let the rest go. Come back next week. We have a different speaker. Or absolutely. And talk to me, and we can work through it. Get things straightened out.
Yeah. Well, in my last episode, Lynn, I didn't mean to cut you off, but it's a good reminder to the listeners. The last episode I did last month talked about, even in spiritualism, you find like a sliding scale of churches, of, we have the foundation of the mediumship, of the healing, of the philosophy, but how that is presented or expressed is unique to each individual. Like you said, a different speaker, a different week, to each church or community that gather. And that, I think, is just a beautiful factor.
Mm-hmm. I find that the churches, each church has its own personality.
True that. Yeah.
Depending on, not only who's running it, but the congregation.
Absolutely.
And it's some people like to float around till they find one that matches. Some people are happy. They walk in and this is where they want to be.
Yeah.
And we're all inclusive. I mean, what's not to like about spiritualism?
Right. That is truth. That is truth. I agree with you. I have found it to be rewarding, inspiring, healing, challenging even. And, things that are challenging aren't necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right. And I think that the challenge makes us grow, makes us evolve.
Mm-hmm. It's a religion that you don't leave at the door when you walk out of the building.
I love that.
You take it with you, and it just becomes part of who you are.
Yeah.
And it's just when you get together again on Sunday, okay, you get together with people that have had the religion with them throughout the week, and you're all of like mind, but individual.
Yeah.
And it's to me it's the only way to go. I feel like stopping people on the street and saying, "Hey, do you know?"
Yeah. Yeah. So I want to ask, 45 years. So you're saying 45 years you've been in spiritualism. What part of spiritualism, or what things in spiritualism still excite you? It still gets your bubblies bubbling,
when I give a message and someone says, I know exactly who you're talking about, it's like, really? You do? Oh my gosh. I still do that, and I've been doing it for years, but I still get that. Wow, that's it's validation for me, and it's I don't know, it just answers everything. And it's just like I just get so excited when somebody knows what I'm talking about.
You know what? That actually, you're the first person who said that, and I find that super refreshing. And I bet you some of our listeners do too, because, as mediums, sometimes we get caught up in, is it me? Am I thinking this? Or is it spirit? And then when you say it, and then somebody validates it, like, oh my gosh, it is kind of exciting. I never thought of it that way.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, and that's important. That is so important. So now I'm going to ask you, because I just want to know, since you've been around so long and you brought up, oh gosh, now I forgot his name, Frenzy.
Al.
Who are some of the people in spiritualism, either pioneers or people of the past, that kind of inspired you or piqued more of your interest in spiritualism?
Joyce Orcutt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Al did too, really, in his own way. He, it was like, it's amazing. I always tell the story of, because when I first came into spiritualism, I wanted to know everything there was about mediumship. So I went to a class that he was leading. And I'm ashamed to say this, but I went for 15 years and I didn't get a darn thing.
Oh.
Not a. And everybody says, well, why did you keep going? It's like, well, I don't know looking back on it, but it's like, I thought I was doing something wrong and everybody else was getting something. So it must be me. But for me, it wasn't being taught the way I needed it.
Sure.
So I teach classes now, and I teach the way I like it. And everybody seems, and they don't have to wait 15 years in order to get something. Holy cow.
Oh, well, you bring up a good point, because, I always say 15 years, though, Lynn, is a long time to commit. God bless you. God bless you.
Oh, my God.
But you really bring up a valid point, too, that's going to be important to people who want to develop, their mediumship, is that if it doesn't fit, try it a couple times, to really try. But if that teacher doesn't work, it's the law of vibration, right? There's other teachers out there. We all learn differently.
But at that time, there weren't any other teachers. That spiritualism wasn't listed any place. There was before the computer. This goes way back, 45 years ago is a long time. And when we went to have a medium's day one time, we had to advertise at mediumship psychic readings because nobody knew what mediumship was. And there were nobody, and it was against the law for psychics to put out their signs here.
Sure.
So there was nobody else around teaching.
Yeah. Well, you bring up the good point of history, right? Like part of that history of spiritualism forming as a form of a religion. Like I truly believe spiritualism is a movement. I feel that we define ourselves by science, philosophy, and religion to be understood. But the main reason we became a religion was not to indoctrinate people, not to, demand creed, or those kinds of things. It was solely to protect the act of, or the demonstration of mediumship from people getting, like you said, arrested or, thrown in jail or, shunned or whatever. So you bring up, that's a valid point. So you must have seen, so I do want to point out people too, just so you might not know, like Joyce or I always say her last name right or wrong. Thank you. Or Pine Grove Spiritualist Camp. That's a spiritualist camp Similar to Lilydale, it has a season, what they call a season, where they bring in teachers and, mediums from around the country. So check that out. Lilydale isn't just the only, it is the largest. I will say that because I've been to most all of them now. So it is one of the largest, but it's not the only spiritualist camp in the US, actually. There's spiritualist camps, like Lynn was saying, have a very, very rich history of having almost one in every state, sometimes even multiple ones in one state, that brought spiritualist free thinkers together in those summer months, normally, whatever summer's for them. Like I know Florida has a season different from our season because of the climate, but yeah. So check that out, Pine Grove Spiritualist Camp. And like I said, you have a church in Connecticut because you're in Connecticut. What's the name of your church, Lynn?
The Spiritualist Church of Peace and Light.
And they can find people who are interested can find you?
Oh, absolutely. We've got a webpage, scpeacelight.org.
Perfect.
But yeah. And for a while after we first started, I felt like the itinerant preacher moving all around because we couldn't find a place to sit. And because we'd be here for a while and they'd say, oh, you have to move. Then we'd be here for a while and they have to move. So we went around and around and around. The last place we were at before we were at where we are now, they asked us to leave because of who we are.
Yeah, we still suffer from discrimination because we don't fit that box of traditional religion. Yeah, I do feel that. Oh, that's a shame though. But you have found a space now.
We have found a space. We have, and it's really very good. And when we get the computer working, like we had a problem when you were here that first time.
It was okay. It worked out fine eventually.
But it's and we're growing. We're on Zoom and we are in person. So you've got either or. Perfect. We've got more people coming on Zoom, honestly. They come from
I think that the movement of spiritualism, and this gets me to my question of where do you see spiritualism going? I think it's changing. I think it's moving through a phase where a transitional phase where, yes, it's great. Like for us, for people who live close to Connecticut or close to those churches, or people who live close to Lilydale, we have options. There's a couple different spiritualist churches, but I think the amount of spiritualist churches are shrinking across the country a little bit. They're getting harder to find. And so there's a lot of states where there are people who are looking for what spiritualism has to offer. And thank goodness it is now available on Zoom or, some form of computer technology. And that's where I think we'll see the most growth. I think most of the membership of things are growing because of technology.
Absolutely. I do too. We've had, there's one fellow that comes in every once in a while from Australia. Yeah. We've had one fellow that comes in from Germany. And, so, I mean, I don't know where they find it. I guess there's some place that some woman has it that where they advertise where you can find things online. But it's fantastic. It really is. I think technology is wonderful. And I think the churches that aren't using it are missing out. And I keep telling some of them that they should do it, and they haven't done it. But then it's not my business what they do with their church.
That is true. So let me ask you that question. What would you like to see in the movement of spiritualism going forward? Where would you like to see a little maybe more growth or evolution in the spiritualist movement?
Past lives.
Yeah.
I think not addressing that is missing out too, because 9 out of 10 people, at least 9 out of 10 people, believe in it. And if by ignoring it, I think it's a facet that we could explore more. And I think it would be I really do.
I do too. I mean, I think that, for me, it's interesting because I've been a swinging pendulum. I've been a non-believer, a believer, and I'm landing somewhere in the middle because, again, if we're continuous energy, if you think about that, if, the basis of spiritualism, the basis belief is that we are continual beings, that death does not kill us nor deny us, in eternity. I mean, eternity, our little poor human minds cannot understand the depth of eternity. And so to say something that is so absolute, like it does exist, it doesn't exist, in my opinion, it's a little arrogant, it's a little ignorance. It's a little bit of not looking at a much bigger, broader picture that I feel spirit. I'm sure you feel this too. Messages from souls and loved ones from beyond talk about an existence that we can't really even map out.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like saying we're the only people in the universe.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on. Yeah. But really, but no, I work with the Akashic Records, and some people are saying, "Oh my," but there you get into the more of the past lives, and that, and it's been my personal opinion is, I think it's absolute. It's absolutely reincarnation is an absolute.
Yeah,
I mean, how could it not be? Like you say, we're the purpose of mediumship is to prove the continuity of life.
Yeah.
And where does that stop? When they pass over? I don't think so. It continues. It continues.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, our mind goes so like with blinders of time, like 100 years, we'll say 1,000 years, but we can't even understand what 1,000 years really is. I mean, most of us beg, hope, dream, wish to get to 80, 90, or 100, so our time, our opinion, our understanding of time is so short and defined, where spirit keeps telling us it does, time's an illusion. It doesn't exist. Mm-hmm. And spirit keeps guiding us to this gargantuan, broader sense of the world and what is in it and what's beyond it. So absolutely. That's very interesting.
We just, it's beyond our finite mind to understand the infinite.
Absolutely.
It's just, we just can't do it. I mean, I can't figure out what's going to happen at the end of the year.
True that. Yeah. We can only make up stories or ideas or something.
That's what's going to happen in 1,000 or 2,000 years. I mean, please, come on. And it's like, oh my gosh. It's but to me, spiritualism is, like I said before, it's a way of life. If I lose something, I'll say, okay, come on, guys, where is it? If I'm going to serve a church and that, on the way to the church, I say, okay, come on, guys, let's make this a good church and be with me when I do the message work. It's just automatic. And I just know that it's going to happen. But it won't happen unless you ask. And the thing is, so many people say, well, they just expect spirit to be there. Well, spirit is there, but it's like, if you're standing next to someone, if you're standing next to a friend and they don't ask you for help, you're not going to you're not going to give them the help because they figure they can do it themselves.
Yeah.
And to me, I need the help.
Yeah. Well, that's profound. I think that's a really good way to start to conclude, because I'm like, well, what were you going to suggest for people who are, and you, like, spirit just guided you to answer that. Ask for it. Ask spirit for it. It's there.
You have to. And it's like I said in the very beginning about how Spirit will take you where you're supposed to be as long as you are open to it. And as long as you are asking for it, and just the fact that I started, it's funny because when I first started trying to find out what was going on the other side before I got into spiritualism, I was reading all the books in the library, which was about 4 at the time because there weren't any. And that's, but that was at the time when the book Life After Life came out by Dr. Moody.
Yeah.
To me, that was it, But in searching for that and in opening myself up to it, it was asking. I was asking for it because I was trying everything I knew.
Yeah.
And Spirit says, oh, well, she's given, we might as well help her out. She's doing all she can, so they sent me to Pine Grove and on and on.
Oh,
but,
I love that.
It's yeah. In fact, our healing prayer says, I will do my part.
Yeah. And so it says, I ask.
Yeah,
I love that.
Yes.
I ask. Yeah. Yeah. I don't demand, beg, borrow, steal, plead, worship, hope, wish.
Yep. I will do my part. Yep.
Yeah.
So you can't just say, okay, I'm sitting here waiting, do it for me. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Unbelievable. Lynn, I can't believe it. We've been having so much fun. I can't even believe time's already up already. I'm like, we've talked for 30 minutes. Like we just
We just sat down.
That does happen. See, time doesn't exist, right? When you get spiritualists together, it just happens. Oh my gosh, Lynn. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. I love it. So who are these spiritualists with guest Lynn Gaffin? Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
Now, again, just repeat one more time, the church camp, where you're at, how people can locate you if they have questions or if maybe they're in Connecticut and they're looking for something.
Spiritualist Church of Peace and Light. We're on the webpage. We also have a Facebook page. We have a web page. There's Pine Grove Spirituals Camp in the summer. And you can, if you want to get in touch with me, my information is on our webpage.
Wonderful. And just again, thank you guys for tuning in and viewing. This was a pre-recorded show, so we will definitely check out the comments. Again, Lilydale season is about to kick off in June. We are the largest spiritualist community in the United States. Our catalog has come out, so you can see it on our website, or you can call the office, and for a shipping fee, we will mail out our catalog. We have a lot of great classes, a lot of great seminars and talks and things coming up for this season, so we strongly suggest that you check it out. Again, I'm Stacy Sherman Shull, and this was Who is a Spiritualist? If you want to see previous episodes, look at our YouTube channel or Facebook. I also encourage you to check out the other hosts and shows that are done by Lilydale Assembly on a regular basis. They are also, you can just, if you go to the Facebook tab, go to videos, and you'll see a list of all of the shows that Lilydale has to offer about spiritualism, about spiritual growth, healing, mediumship, all of that. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we will see you next month on Who Are These Spiritualists? Thanks again.